They announced to everyone that I had surrendered, claimed I had given up. Something significant to pursue, something trivial. They ceased asking inquiries. They began narrating my tale for me. However, the reality was never boisterous. It was simply awaiting the proper moment to emerge. If you have faith in silent resilience, in narratives that develop gradually but impact profoundly, subscribe to the channel. Because occasionally the most influential journeys are the ones nobody anticipated. My name is Olivia Reed. I'm 31 years old. I reside in a modest apartment situated above a bookshop in Seattle. I brew my own coffee, I handle my own expenses, and evidently I remain the family's disappointment. I was meant to become a physician, the intelligent one, the high achiever, the favored child. At least until I wasn't. I abandoned medical school during my second year. It wasn't substances or theatrics or controversy, just exhaustion, pure and straightforward. The type that emptied me from within, the kind nobody detected because I still grinned at Christmas gatherings. When I departed, my father refused to communicate with me for months. My mother wept into a tissue and informed everyone I was taking a hiatus. My younger brother Ryan proceeded forward and silently became the family's new source of pride. Finance degree, executive office, fiancé from a respectable family. The complete arrangement. And me. I began instructing technology fundamentals to elderly citizens in my neighborhood for money, for mental stability, for something to occupy my days. Initially, it seemed like defeat. Then it began to seem like destiny. What commenced as individual lessons in coffee establishments transformed into group sessions at the library, then online seminars, then a prototype for a digital platform. I named it Elderbright. Simple mission: assist people over 60 in staying connected in a digital world that continuously attempts to abandon them. We taught email, video conversations, online banking, digital security, even how to identify false information before it circulates to every relative on Facebook. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't a unicorn enterprise. But it was functioning. That week I conducted a video conversation with a woman named Mrs. Given, 83 years old, 2 hip replacements, and sufficient attitude to fuel a comedy show. It required us 40 minutes to configure her Zoom microphone. She addressed me as darling and grumbled, "This device despises me." But when it finally operated and she observed her son's face on screen, a man who resided 3 states away, she gasped, hand covering her mouth, and whispered, "You transported my child into my living room." Moments like that don't generate headlines, but they transform lives. And that's what I constructed Elderbright for. Within 3 years we had over 80,000 active participants, several state-level partnerships, and a waiting list of non-profits pleading with us to expand into their communities. We were transforming lives one patient tutorial at a time. But to my family, I was conducting some sort of online instruction activity. They never inquired how it was progressing. They never once expressed they were proud. In their perception, I had stepped away from the golden route and wandered into the forest. It didn't matter that I'd constructed the path myself and illuminated the way for others to follow. Last month at Sunday dinner, my mother served roast beef and casually mentioned to Ryan's fiancée. Ryan's always been the determined one. Olivia, well, she's more of a free spirit. I smiled politely, sliced my carrots, didn't utter a word. Because that's what disappointments do. We remain silent, we stay courteous, we stay invisible. But something was about to shift, and it would all commence with a name I hadn't heard in years, spoken by someone who had no idea who I truly was. Not yet. The irony was always cutting. I could construct a platform for thousands of strangers to feel acknowledged, but I couldn't get my own family to pose me a single genuine question. At Elderbright, we were in the midst of a major upgrade, revamping our onboarding process to make it even simpler for older users who'd never touched a keyboard. I just completed a user test with a 76-year-old man who wept when he managed to FaceTime his granddaughter for the first time. He kept repeating, "She thought I was gone. Now she can see I'm still here." That moment energized me more than any funding announcement ever had. But when I mentioned it at a family dinner the week following, my dad just grunted. Teaching old folks to click buttons. Real noble work. Ryan chuckled quietly. I let it pass. They didn't understand that clicking buttons had evolved into a full-stack educational platform built on adaptive UX principles and a custom accessibility framework designed to work seamlessly with screen readers, motor skill tracking, and voice command optimization. They didn't understand that our monthly newsletter had a 78% open rate, that we were being piloted in 3 state-run community centers, that my little project was changing more lives in a week than most of their boardroom meetings did in a year. Because I never informed them. Because when someone hands you a label like failure, you either struggle to remove it or you wear it quietly while constructing something too large for them to ignore. 2 weeks before Ryan's engagement celebration, my inbox chimed. Subject line: Amanda C. testimonial submission. Amanda, that was Ryan's fiancée. I clicked. It was a video 90 seconds long, submitted through our Stories That Shine campaign where users or their family members could share the impact of Elderbright. In it, Amanda sat in a softly lit living room holding the hand of a smiling older woman. This is my grandma Margaret, she said. She lost my grandpa last spring and it was a really lonely period for her. But thanks to Elderbright, she was able to stay in touch with all of us, video call every week, even learn how to use online grocery applications. It gave her back some confidence, and it gave us her. I froze. Amanda didn't know who I was, didn't connect the name. She just knew Elderbright helped her family. I watched the video twice, then a third time. Her grandmother looked directly into the camera at the end and said, "Thank you, Olivia. You helped me feel human again." That night my mom called. "Don't forget the engagement dinner is Saturday. We want everything perfect." I wasn't sure if I should come, I said. "Why wouldn't you?" she asked, though the question came out too quickly. "Because I'm not sure I belong." A beat of silence. Then, "Just don't talk about your website thing too much, okay? Amanda's family is very professional. Ivy League types." I nearly laughed. "Got it," I said. No mention of buttons. She didn't get the sarcasm. I hung up and stared out the window of my apartment, watching Seattle's lights blink in the rain. My mother had no idea that her son's fiancé had thanked me publicly, emotionally, for giving her grandmother a way to feel connected again. And I had no intention of saying a word about it. Not yet. Because sometimes it's better to let the truth introduce itself. The week of the engagement celebration, I didn't touch the RSVP card. I knew they expected me to show up, smile politely, and stay in the corner like a faded photograph, still there but easy to overlook. I told myself I'd go for Amanda, for the grandmother who said I made her feel human again. Not for my family. At a cousin's barbecue a week before the party, someone asked me, "So, still doing your little internet thing?" I smiled, nodded, bit my tongue. My mom, standing right there, didn't correct them. Didn't say I had staff or users or grants. She just offered them more potato salad, and I stood there holding a paper plate, pretending I wasn't shrinking. Never again for them. At the office, we were finalizing a partnership with the Washington State Library System. Elderbright would be piloted in 12 rural branches, places where seniors had more goats than broadband. It was real, impactful work. Meanwhile at home, my mother was choosing napkin colors and emailing me photo references for appropriate dresses with the note, "No black, no pantsuits." Something feminine this time. I stared at the message like it had teeth. My mother loved control, especially over women who refused to be controlled. Friday, the day before the party, I stopped by a local coffee shop to meet our newest intern, a young coder named Jamie. She was 19, brilliant, and full of questions about UX for aging populations. While we chatted, a woman from the next table leaned over and said, "I'm sorry to interrupt, but are you Olivia Reed? From Elderbright?" I blinked. "Yes." "Oh my gosh," she said, smiling. "My dad's been using your platform for months. He sends me memes now." Memes. I didn't even know he knew what a meme was. Jamie looked at me like I'd just grown a cape. "You didn't tell me people recognize you." They usually don't, I said. But the truth was, it was starting. More emails, more testimonials, a podcast invite, a quiet buzz outside my family's narrow lens. I wasn't invisible. I was rising. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying Amanda's video in my head, the way she looked at her grandmother, the sincerity in her voice. She didn't know me, not personally, but she had trusted something I built. Something born out of pain and failure and reinvention. And that trust, it was pure, earned, undeniable. Unlike the love I kept trying to earn from people who refused to see me. At 3 a.m., I got up and pulled out a dress. Not black, not a pantsuit. A dark emerald green, sleeveless, clean lines, elegant and simple. Mine. I stored Amanda's testimonial video on a USB drive, not to display, just to carry. A silent reminder that sometimes the ripples we generate travel further than we ever envisioned, reaching individuals we've never encountered and drawing back those who thought we'd vanished. The restaurant was glass and gold, the type of establishment where the illumination was deliberately dim and the bread arrived with truffle butter. I arrived 10 minutes early. I always do. My mother appeared surprised when she spotted me. "Oh, you came. You requested me to," I said simply. "Well, I'm pleased." She wasn't. I could detect it in her eyes. The forced smile, the glance at my dress like it was one shade too daring, 1 inch too rebellious. I took my seat near the end of the table, distant enough to be out of focus, just how they preferred it. Ryan and Amanda arrived 15 minutes later, glowing, radiant. Amanda embraced everyone, including me. She didn't say much, didn't recognize me yet. Not like that. The evening progressed with speeches and champagne toasts. Ryan's boss stood up to say something that sounded costly. Amanda's father spoke about heritage and devotion. I just nodded along, invisible again. Until dessert. Until Amanda leaned over casually, eyes narrowed in curiosity. "I've been meaning to ask, Olivia. What do you do again?" The room went silent around the edges. My mother tensed. I took a sip of water. "I run a platform for digital literacy for older adults." "Wait, like online classes?" "More like adaptive systems for long-term engagement. We specialize in accessibility, text, screen readers, large print navigation, speech input." Amanda blinked. "What's it called?" "Elderbright." She stared at me, eyes wide. "No. No way. You're Elderbright." I gave a slight nod. "I founded it." Her hand covered her mouth. She looked at Ryan, then back at me. "You're the Olivia Reed?" As in the founder, the face of Elderbright's Stories That Shine campaign. Now the room wasn't just listening. It had stopped breathing. My mother's fork paused midair. "My grandma Margaret, she used Elderbright every day until she passed. You helped her video call our family every Sunday. You gave us more time with her. I submitted a video to your campaign." I smiled gently. "I know. I saw it. It meant a lot." Amanda stood up. "Why didn't you say anything?" I shrugged. "Wasn't the right time." She turned to the table. "I don't think you all understand. This woman built a national program from scratch. She's been featured on NPR and Forbes. She's changing lives." Aunt Linda gasped. Uncle Joe cleared his throat. My father looked down at his wine. My mother opened her mouth, closed it again. Amanda kept going. I can't believe I'm meeting you. You helped my family. My grandma never called herself smart until she used your site." She sat slowly, still looking stunned. Ryan leaned toward me. I didn't know. "You never asked," I said, voice calm. Silence again. But this time it wasn't cold. It was awe. The rest of the night passed in a strange new light. People began to whisper, not behind my back, but toward me. Toasts suddenly included Olivia's impressive work. My mother sat stiff and quiet, as if recalibrating the narrative in real time. And for the first time in a very long while, I didn't feel like the footnote. I felt like the headline. Not because I demanded it, not because I interrupted, but because the truth walked into the room on its own and refused to stay quiet. The next morning I woke up with a strange quiet in my chest. It wasn't pride, it wasn't revenge. It was something deeper. Like the sound of a door finally closing without a slam. My phone buzzed. A message from Ryan. I'm sorry I never asked. Simple. No excuses, no emojis. I stared at it for a while, then turned the screen face down. Later that afternoon, my mom called twice. I didn't answer, not out of spite. I just didn't know what she'd say, and I didn't want to give her the chance to make it smaller than it was. Not this time. That night I took a walk down to the pier. The air was crisp, laced with salt and pine, and the world felt suspended, like something had cracked open quietly and the light was still deciding how far to reach. I thought of Amanda's face when she made the connection. Not just recognition, but reverence. Not for fame, but for impact. For meaning. And I thought about all the years I spent shrinking because I believed their silence meant I wasn't enough. But now I knew better. 2 days later, a letter arrived. Real paper, handwritten, from my mother. Dear Olivia, I watched the video Amanda sent me. I cried, not because I didn't know what you'd built, but because I realized I never bothered to ask. I was so focused on what you walked away from that I never looked at what you were walking toward. You did what no one in this family ever had the courage to do. You failed and kept going. And in doing that, you taught people how to find their voice again. Including me. Love, Mom. I read it 3 times, then folded it slowly and placed it beside my desk. Not framed, not displayed, just kept. Because this time I didn't need to hang proof on the wall. I was living it every day. That weekend I gave a keynote at a community tech conference. There were no cameras, no national press, just 60 people in a rec center auditorium, most of them holding notebooks and hope. I told them the truth. I was never supposed to be here. I was supposed to be someone else. But life had other plans, and I stopped arguing with them. When the room stood to applaud, I didn't cry, but I did smile. Not the polite kind, the kind that reaches your spine. The kind that says, I made it, and I didn't need permission. 3 months later, Amanda asked me to lunch, not as Ryan's sister, as Olivia the founder, the woman who built something from the ashes and dared to call it beautiful. We met at a sunlit cafe in Capitol Hill. She was already seated, smiling, a notebook half open beside her coffee. I've been thinking, she said. There's a foundation I volunteer with. They fund social impact startups, especially those led by women. I showed them your work. She slid the notebook toward me. Inside, notes, numbers, potential connections. If you're ready to scale, I think we can help. I didn't blink. You don't owe me anything. She shook her head. This isn't about debt. It's about belief. You gave something to my grandmother I never could. I just want to see where else your light can reach. And for once, I let someone believe in me without flinching. That summer, Elderbright launched its first nationwide campaign. We called it Digital Dignity, workshops in public libraries, training hubs in community centers, free programs for veterans and underserved seniors. We hit 250,000 users. I got an email from a 92-year-old in Montana. Your platform helped me apply for a passport online. I'm flying to see my great-granddaughter next month. I've never flown before. Thank you for giving me that first step. I sat with that message for a long time, not as validation, but as a reminder. Every quiet effort matters. At Ryan and Amanda's wedding, I wore a navy jumpsuit. No one blinked. My mother introduced me to her friends as my daughter Olivia. She runs a national non-profit. The label wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Later she pulled me aside, holding a glass of white wine and emotion. You always walked your own way, she said. I used to think that meant you were lost. Now I see you were just walking ahead. We didn't hug, but we stood beside each other longer than we ever had. And that felt like enough. That night I stood under a canopy of fairy lights, watching people dance. Ryan walked over, hands in his pockets, a little nervous. Amanda tells me you've been invited to speak at Google. That true? Next month. You going to brag about being my sister? I laughed. You going to brag about being mine? He grinned. And just like that, the past loosened its grip. 2 weeks after the wedding, I sent Ryan and Amanda a small package. Inside was a handwritten note and a USB drive. On the drive was a custom-built version of Elderbright, personalized for the assisted living facility where Amanda's grandmother had spent her final years. Lifetime access, no fees, full tech support. I didn't tell anyone. There was no press release, no credit, just a simple note that said, "Some connections outlive misunderstanding. Thank you for helping mine find her voice." Amanda called me the next morning. She didn't speak right away, just breathed through the tears and whispered, "You didn't have to." I smiled. I know. That's why I did. Back home, I printed out a quote, taped it to my fridge. "They'll tell everyone you failed until one day they ask how you did it." No signature, no bitterness, just truth. And beneath it, my reflection in the fridge door, smiling, solid, serene. Because this time the light wasn't coming from anyone else, it was mine all along. Where are you watching from today? I'd love to know what part of the world you're in and whether this story stirred something in you. Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. You never know who might need to read your words. If this story spoke to you and you believe in quiet victories, personal growth, and stories that matter, make sure to subscribe to the channel. There's so much more ahead, and I'd be honored to share it with you. Thank you truly for being here. Until next time, stay grounded, stay kind, and remember, your story is still unfolding.